What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another FSI edition of our Showdown Breakdown, which I love, niche sports. We absolutely crushed NHL this weekend on Fantasy Sports Insight. Classic Slate Showdowns. The Cowboy Showdown's going on right now with one of our captain core plays and Ezekiel Elliott with 2 touchdowns. So I'm really pumped about this NFL season, and today had an awesome start. So again, if you love these videos and all the content we're putting out at Fantasy Sports Insight, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like, give us a comment. It is greatly appreciated. You will also see today a video from Gator Guy reviewing his cash lineups, which is always a great opportunity to get in the mind of somebody else and go through the process. So then you can go through the process on your own builds and see what you need to change going forward. Don't mind the Princess Castles here in the back. We are moving some things around in the basement, so we have a little bit different scenery tonight. But let's move into our 2-game Monday night slate. So we will preview both of them on this preview here, so make sure you stay tuned for the entire thing. We will actually start tonight. I didn't do this the other times, but I am going to start with the odds. So tomorrow night we have Pittsburgh being a pretty heavy money line favorite at minus 245 with a spread of 6 and over under 45 with the return of Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith, Connor. They're fully healthy, so it'll be interesting to see what their potential is against the Giants. The Titans are minus 160, just a 3-point favorite against Denver. A lower scoring total, which is not really that surprising with how much Tennessee will expect to run the ball, and likely Denver as well. So let's get into the first slate. Saquon Barkley obviously is at the top of our salary, is probably somebody you can't fade in cash. You could get cute and fade him in GPPs, but there's not many guys like him left in the league that are on the field 95% of the game or 95% of the offensive plays. So the touches can be maximized. If they're losing, that doesn't hurt him at all because they're just going to throw the ball to him. I think Daniel Jones will really focus on targeting him this year quite a bit. So Barkley, lock him in your cash games. Ben Roethlisberger, I think some people are going to be a little bit weary of him coming back, but I don't have any issues. I'm gonna fire him up right away. The Giants defense is not better overnight, so one of the worst passing defenses in the league last year. So I think he's going to be a really nice play here. James Conner at 9,600, I'm a little less excited about. They have talked, he's going to take back some of the duties that he had, but then there's been times where, there's been mention that there could be still some slight splitting, with Blake Snell or Samuels. They just have too many other options that could still potentially steal from him a little bit. While I still think he's a decent play, I think I prefer Juju Smith-Schuster to James Conner. Smith-Schuster has just got a lot of chemistry with Ben Roethlisberger, obviously derailed from the injury last year. And so with Roethlisberger, the whole team was kind of in shambles. I think those two are the connection that I want to target that's going to really upstart this team coming back. Daniel Jones at 9,000. 9,000 is super cheap for him in a negative and likely a positive game script for him. So I think 9,000, is a really fair price tag for someone like Daniel Jones. And the reason that I'm okay targeting probably if I can get 3 or 4 of these guys in my lineup, because I don't love the mid range that much. Evan Ingram is a great tight end. He's a physical specimen, but I don't think I'm going to be using one of my skill position players on Ingram at 8,000. Shepard and Golden Tate. Golden Tate is listed as questionable. I think they think he will play, or even though earlier in the week it didn't look as good. But, the more guys that are in like Tate and Shepard and Ingram, it takes away from some of the value that you would get from each of them. Eric Ebron, a new landing in Pittsburgh after being with Indianapolis. That does get, lose some reps for Vance McDonald, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I'm not really that keen on targeting Ebron. He's a little bit too touchdown dependent for me. Moving down here, I think Deontay Johnson is going to be a really popular play at 5,800. Yes, most of his like awesome games here that you're going to see from week 14 and on without Schuster. He kind of emerged, but I still think with Roethlisberger, he's capable of outscoring that price tag and really crushing that price tag at 5,800. Um, Moving down, Slayton, another guy who thrived kind of at the end of the year when it didn't matter. You have James Washington here again, somebody that did okay when there was less mouths to feed. Now you have Connor and Smith-Schuster back. I don't love him as much. Boswell and Gano are both in play for kickers. I would not be considering the Giants defense at all here. I think Steelers defense is in play because you probably will see some turnovers and maybe a defensive touchdown for the Steelers. Moving down here, somebody like Dion Lewis, I don't really know what, his role is going to be, but for 1,400, we do know that, he does catch balls out of the backfield or has in the past. That's kind of been a role. He didn't do it a ton last year, but that's been a role that he has carried with him. So if he is the primary backup for Saquon Barkley, which I mentioned earlier, he is on the field most of the game, but 1,400, it's really tough to not hit the value. If he has like 2 catches even for like 15 yards, that's pretty good at that price tag. Because then the next guy would be considering, Jalen Samuels or Blake Snell Jr., whoever kind of gets, listed as the second running back. I think Benny Snell Jr. has a better chance maybe. But I don't really like any of these guys. I prefer maybe even targeting someone like Vance McDonald, who still is not going to be just completely ignored in the offense, even with the addition of Ebron. But I do think, obviously, he is serving a lesser role than he would have normally seen. Other than that, I think that's kind of where I'm going to stand. I'm going to maybe just try to look over the Steelers depth chart and see if there's any other news about their committee. And maybe that would either steer me a little bit more towards Connor, or even if it's more of a committee, then steer you more towards the value of potentially one of those other backup running backs if they are, identified as the second running back that will get some run in that position. So again, I think if you start with Barkley, it might be tough to use him in the captain for his price tag. But even if you look at using someone like Daniel Jones, Barkley, Big Ben, and Schuster, you're not, even these core 4 that I love, you're still not completely done, using salary. So I think you can definitely still use somebody like one of those 2 punts, Dion Lewis, Vance McDonald, one of the Steelers running backs, plus a defense. Maybe you can even get up to Deontay Johnson. So love those builds. The slate will be fun. I'm really excited about it. Let's move on to the next one, where we're going to have a little bit less fireworks, I think, and a little bit more running the ball. The biggest injury news here is going to be on Denver. Cortland Sutton listed as questionable. And here it says it is like a true questionable tag. So I think if there is a chance he misses, it opens up a ton of value. It obviously also means they're going to run the ball a lot more. So they've said that, Gordon and Lindsey are going to split, which I think is definitely possible. I would lean towards Gordon getting a little bit more of those touches. But if Cortland Sutton is out, that definitely launches Jerry Jeudy into an even more prominent role as a rookie right off the bat. It also is going to bring into play Tim Patrick, who would be actually in play anyway. If Cortland Sutton is in, he could even serve as that third receiver. Deshaun Hamilton, and then even down here, KJ Halmer is listed as questionable and likely out. But again, we need injury news. If Sutton's out and then these 3 are in, they all could definitely crush value, and Patrick especially. So I think that is something to really keep an eye on. I don't really love Cortland Sutton, even if he is in. Obviously Derrick Henry is going to be really popular, and AJ Brown. I think those are my 2 favorite plays already off the bat. Henry and Brown, and then you could look at using one of the quarterbacks or both of them. And then, I just don't love the split here. I think if Cortland Sutton's out, that definitely makes Jerry Jeudy at 7,200 really, a decent play at that price. Noah Fant obviously is starting to come alive as a tight end, and I think that's something that Drew Lock likes to target. Jonnu Smith at 5,800 is a nice value for a tight end. Both kickers will definitely be in play. Both defenses, for that fact, are going to be in play. I think the Titans defense is definitely in play at 5,000. I actually think they're a little bit underpriced. So this game has, not as many sexy picks as you would normally see, or that we saw in the last game. You don't have the, you know, Saquon and Juju, but Derrick Henry is a fantasy beast as well. So I think this game is really important to pay attention to the injury news, and then see where you can create some value. And maybe it is easy to plug in those, both the quarterbacks and AJ Brown and Derrick Henry. If you are going to get somebody like Sutton's out, and you can lock in Tim Patrick or Deshaun Hamilton. Even Humphreys at 2,200 for Tennessee. Really tough to not hit value there as well. So there's some decent value in both of these slates, that I think that if you have your 4 studs that you absolutely want to play, and using whichever one in captain, I don't think that there's that many obstacles for your lineup builds to do that. So again, I greatly appreciate anybody who's listening. Hit that like button. It is so helpful for us. And that subscribe button. We have a goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we are, working really hard towards that. So we appreciate all the support. Be on the lookout for other content out of other sports. We have a heavy NFL content schedule. If there's something that you're looking for that we don't have, I know I mainly focus on DraftKings, but a lot of the injury news and the insight and the, if you just remove the price tags, you can apply a lot of those same things to FanDuel. And I think, FanDuel being a half-point PPR versus a 1-point PPR does make a difference. Gives the receivers a little bit less value and adds a little bit more value to the running backs and quarterbacks. So if you have any questions or, about the slate or anything, hit me up on Twitter or just leave a comment below. All right, guys, have a good one.